Who started the town?
No, we did.
Someone else said it was the town.
Yeah. I don't think so.
So when anticipating complete vote?
Still, I think it's the end of this month.
Okay.
We probably gonna have groundbreaking when we come back
Okay.
from Hilton Head to Palms Island. Where we going that you not going?
Island Palm.
Y'all going down there taking them luxury trips?
I'd like to call the Fairfield County Council regular meeting to order. Winsboro, South Carolina, Monday, July 11, 2022, 6 o'clock p.m. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Let the record show 6-0 and to approval of the agenda. Before we do the invocation, we'd like to announce that Mr. Tim Roseborough could not be here tonight because of health issues. So he regrets and sends his apologies. Now we have invocation by Councilman Pauly.
Let us pray. Dear God, we pray for everyone here tonight and that every decision we make will be in the best interest of Fairfield County. In Jesus' name, amen.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Let the record show approval of minutes 6-0. Public presentations, none. First public comment, item 6. Dr. Roberts.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of council. Fairfield County government welcomes public input during appropriate times at county council meetings. Such input will be allowed in the time, place, and manner determined by the chair of the county council as the presiding officer. Persons wishing to speak must conduct themselves in the following manner. Sign up at the appropriate time to speak, should refrain from engaging in conduct or speech that seeks to disrupt or disturb the meeting, must respect the time limit for the public comments, and must refrain from personal attacks or personal statements about any individual or individuals. Such statements are disruptive because this part of our meeting is not conducive for such exchanges between individuals. As stated, speakers are expected to express themselves within the time, place, and manner previously described. Any violation will result in a warning from the chair of county council or the presiding officer. Any failure to heed the warning of the chair or presiding officer will result in the violating speaker forfeiting their opportunity to finish speaking or to speak during the remainder of the meeting. Council welcomes the comments from members of the public and asks for the cooperation of everyone to allow for the orderly conduct of the people's business. Several persons signed up to speak, Mr. Chair. I would like to advise that as you approach the podium, please note the 3-minute timer on the screens to the left and the right of the stage. First speaker, Mike Brownham.
Good afternoon. Hear me? I'm making sure it's on. My name is Michael Brownham. I live at 884 Devil's Racetrack Road. I'm married into the Douglas family, which owns about 300 acres adjoining to the Gone Springs property. And I've noticed that over the time that this all been going on about rezoning, that the Fairfield County Council, all this projects that's going on in the county right now. There's so many projects on the list and so much going on. I don't see how y'all can manage all this at one time. Matter of fact, a lot of steps are being missed. The plans, the guidelines in your comprehensive plan that Fairfield County has, it calls for cooperation between the towns, Winsboro and Ridgeway, and Fairfield County. And I don't think the communications are getting to the towns on appropriate time schedule as fast as we're trying to move these rezones. Because right now, we got the mega site, 1,500 acres on 77 Prime. That was a big deal with rezoning and getting mega site going. That was a big deal. We got this big site down on Peach Road, which is 500 acres. So my fact of it is, we got so many projects, and now we throw in a wastewater treatment plant. It was scheduled to cost $46 million to start with. Fairfield County does not have $99 million. Everybody says $99 million was a settlement. That's correct. But $27.1 million went to the lawyers. So therefore, the county does not have $99 million to spend. So I think that Fairfield County has overlooked the important fact. The important fact is Fairfield County cannot handle all these projects. I think we got too many irons in the fire, and I think we're not taking the appropriate steps for planning. The planning just went out the window, and we're trying to get these zoned in, and this zoning of this property is going to be very unsafe. This is a school bus route, primarily from Ridgeway to Winsboro. And I would hate to see my grandchildren drive a bus from Ridgeway to Winsboro or from the River Road to Winsboro to go to school, to high school. So at this time, I think it's a bad timing for this rezoning of this, a bad timing for that at this time because of all the projects going on. I don't think we have enough time in the day to talk about all the problems. I appreciate it, but I think right now we have enough projects going on. Thank you.
Paul Craig.
Mr. Chairman and council members, as adjoining 50-acre property owners to the 400-acre tract up for rezoning, we are requesting that you follow the unanimous decision of your own Fairfield County Planning Commission to not rezone this property on May 26, 2022 when casting your final vote this evening. With this being an established residential neighborhood that is still growing with new residential builds, the community is concerned about light and noise pollution as well as industrial pollution from a future business. As you can see in the image displayed with the topography of this land, how could it be prepared for an industrial business without affecting the creek that runs through it, possible runoff, and the underground springs that feed the neighbors' wells, as this is one, if not the highest elevation in Fairfield County. We do agree that the county needs to attract new business, but creating another industrial site when all the existing sites are not developed and utilized does not make sense, especially in the residential neighborhood that is growing. Current infrastructure cannot support the current businesses that are in Fairfield County. Infrastructure is more than just water, sewer, electric, and railroads. You need support businesses and hotels to accommodate current and future growth. Smart growth is a term that comes to mind. Get the supporting infrastructure in place, then people and larger businesses will follow. Once again, we ask you all to consider a decision that will impact this county for years to come. It is currently in the hands of 7 people, and the decisions that you make tonight will last a lifetime. Can your conscience going forward live with the decision you make tonight? It has been revealed to some community members that the Fairfield County Economic Development Group contacted the landowner asking her to get the land rezoned. If this is incorrect, we would like a public response. If this is correct, then this seems to raise an issue of conflict of interest with County Council. According to the recent Fairfield Comprehensive Plan survey results, 89.96% of the people surveyed in Fairfield County, and I quote from the survey, do not trust Fairfield County Council in terms of their leadership, direction, plans, and the decisions they make, end quote. This makes us question the ethics of the current council. This, along with other findings during investigating how this rezoning could happen, came to light. It is a plea for you tonight to reconsider and postpone the vote to further study the issue at hand. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Pelham Lows.
Thank you for letting me speak. I live at 2623 State Highway 34 East on the other side of 34. I have questions about the Gum Spring rezoning request here. What could the general consensus of the public be about this type of rezoning on Gum Springs? What would other county residents in similar neighborhoods want to see happen under the same circumstances? I would think that our decision makers would be interested enough in the concerns of constituents to look at all aspects. Why not put this rush through decision on hold until the community has more input? Is there a secret industry waiting in the wings, or is this just an exercise priming for applause for a special interest? Where is the employee housing and water sewer infrastructure that would be needed for a potential incoming industry? The county has been developing several industrial parks and areas. Restrict the location of industry to those tax-funded sites. Tonight's passing of the third reading for rezoning Gum Springs totally ignores an established and growing residential neighborhood. Rezoning should not negatively impact the lives of the many property owners, some of whom have been there for many generations. Why open the floodgates for undesirable growth incompatible with the area's long-established uses? A Gum Springs house just recently sold for over $600,000. Would this new resident have bought this if he or she had known of the nearby industrial rezoning prior to purchasing the land? Other larger family homes worth $500,000 have already been built in the area, along with plans for more. An industrial site will decrease the values and stop the investments in our county from people interested in such residential neighborhoods. The recent timbering operation that the landowner in question enacted on the 392 acres did not allow for a 100-foot buffer between several of our property owners present tonight. This does not seem to be good neighborly treatment of others. In one case, unstable property line trees fell and damaged fences. Things are so wrong. Residents being tossed out with the bathwater, more desirable uses of this corridor being blitzed. Please reconsider this rapid approval for rezoning. Thank you. Reconsider this, please. Thanks.
Jeff Schaefer.
Got a couple of things I want to say. First thing I want to say is we have a fire on Lake Monticello last week. House burnt down, completely destroyed. I said this several times before. I'm a taxpayer. You're all taxpayers. You pay your taxes for services. We don't get those services. We don't have a fire department. We got a couple of firemen and we have some volunteer firemen. And they can't save homes or lives just by who they are. You've got money, millions of dollars stashed away here. Why aren't we giving the fire department and the police department enough money to fund this county so we can operate safely and people can live their lives normally? That's got to be a priority. Secondly, I'll let that sink in. Because another house is going to burn down tomorrow, this week, and we're going to say, what do we do about it? You did nothing, zero. And if you don't make the attempt to get the fire department funded so they can hire people and get us protected, it's on you. All right, it's time for fact checking. And how much time I got? Not much. I want to know what the fund balance is. How much money does the county have today in all their funds and all their accounts? How much money? Because I can't find that online. It's not public. I'm just thinking maybe you got a little slush fund going here. Okay, so let me suggest that you hire a new out-of-the-county CPA firm that has not done any work for the county before, and let him do an audit, a certified audit of all the funds that the county has and report it to the public. And let's get that done quarterly so that we can see where the money is going, how much money we have, and what purposes are being served. With that being said, and I'm running out of time real quick, we need transparency. And every month that goes by, all we hear is excuses and explanations and finger pointing at the previous council. It's time to stop that. How long can your public listen to you talk about what they did and who did what? It's a waste of time. Just stop and answer the simple questions. The smirking and snickering when I and others get up here to speak, it's not only a sign of complete contempt for the public, of which you ask us not to be sarcastic or direct or point the finger at anyone. I'm not doing that. I'm just letting you know how I feel. The telltale signs of children representing several districts with face masks so we can't see your face. Other people have their masks off. I'd like to see what your face looks like. And one more time, let's try to act like adults and see if there's a better job that can be done for all of us. When they ask you for something in the county, to reconsider it, reconsider whatever they're asking you for and give them an answer of why you decided to do such a thing. I don't think anybody here is saying anything that was outrageous, but that didn't justify an explanation from the county. Thank you for your time.
Jeremy Harris.
Jeremy Harris. I'm a resident on Gum Springs Road. Many of us who have spoken question the logic behind the planning to rezone the land in question. Another question comes up in regard to the citizens in this small community that we're talking about. Is this area of Fairfield County going to be a great place to work, play, and stay? 1 out of 3 isn't bad, right? Actually, it is.
Donita Harris.
I've been a resident. I'm Donita Harris. I spoke the last 3 times. I'm a small farmer. I mean, y'all might remember me speaking last time, but maybe not. I'm going in a different direction tonight. I have heard the phrase moving forward many times from county council and staff, and that's great. However, you cannot move forward unless you look back at the past and learn from the mistakes and failures in Fairfield County. Currently, at my place of employment, we have 521 job openings without applicants. Mr. Willoughby from Community Development so exuberantly described a billion-dollar industry being installed at the site in question. If you haven't noticed, there is a staffing crisis in this country since COVID. Will this be the case for the proposed new industry? Fairfield County already failed $1 billion industry. Actually, it was a $300 billion industry. Anyone remember? Walmart. We cannot even sustain a Walmart in Fairfield County. Lastly, I have a quote, and I'm sure many have heard before. Those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it, and that was by Winston Churchill. We cannot afford to go forward until we address and fix the mess left behind. Thank you for letting me speak.
Peter Gainey.
Chairman, members of council, my name is Peter Gainey, and I'm a 15-year resident of Gum Springs Road. Before I say anything else, though, because we're talking about a tract of property, how many of you have actually been to the tract of property we're discussing? How many of the decision makers have actually been to that property? Okay, so what I thought. So let's back up to where we started. We started with the Planning Commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission. And their goal is to maintain and improve the quality of life for all residents in Fairfield County by providing excellent planning, zoning services in accordance with all local, state, and federal regulations, to achieve the vision of the county comprehensive plan and enhance the natural and built environment. That's their goal. They did their goal. They did a vote. And they voted 7-0, do not rezone this property. And by the way, the Economic Development Group did an absolutely standard, just rock star presentation at that group. They gave them everything they had. And that planning committee said, no, do not rezone this property. The moment it gets to this council, though, I see some fast tracking going on. You may call it standard, but there is too much interest, going to be moving too fast on this piece of property. So the first reading at council, 5-2. Second reading at council, the lockstep, 5-2. So how many members sit on this group that's also part of the Economic Development Committee? Anybody know who those are? I guess not. So if we talk about the Economic Development Group, let's go into their plan, because there's a lot of conversation about this particular plan. So if I quote right out of the book on page 129 of our county Economic Development Group, they say that they should protect property values, number one, from economic development, protect the environment from economic development, resources, and accommodate the growth in a orderly manner. There is nothing orderly about this particular growth, about rezoning a tract of land that doesn't even need to be rezoned. This meeting is not just about rezoning, though. The council needs to understand that if you want to get things done with the residents, it requires public support and mutual respect. So let me quote something for you very quickly in a little bit of my time. Some of you are members or fans of Martin Luther King. Well, one of his right-hand men is John Lewis, who passed away recently. And he said, a democracy cannot thrive where power remains unchecked and justice is reserved for the select few. Ignoring these cries and failing to respond to this movement is simply not an option. For peace cannot exist where justice is not served. I'll see you all at the polls.
Randy Bright.
Randy Bright, Ridgeway, District 1. Compassion and rational thinking should be at the core of all your thinkings and all your decisions. And there is no other path if you're compassionate and if you're rational, based upon all the evidence. Your own planning commission, your citizens, the statistics. You can't manage what you got going already in industrial products and projects. The rational, the compassionate decision is to either table this rezoning for further review or to kill it altogether. If you care about the people, if you care about the county, if you make rational decisions based on all the evidence, even your own planning commission, even your own interim, we've got a lot of interims, manager of economic development says, no, we don't have anybody interested. So what's the hurry? You can't manage what you got? Be rational, be compassionate. Table it or set it aside. There's only one conclusion here. Now, when we talk about rational decisions and when we talk about compassion, let's have compassion for the people that have been begging for money from you guys. You've got plenty. Earmarks is on here. Rural funding is on here. And in your fund balance, did you know we have $4.2 million set aside for leases that run for 7 years? In other words, even if you just set aside 2 years worth, that's $3 million worth of money you've got available. At today's interest rates and inflation, that could be $300,000 a year you're costing us by not using that money. Set 2 years aside, keep $3 million for the needs. Quit telling us you don't have money. You do. Quit telling us you don't have money. You got $4.5 million set in the general fund. Quit telling us you don't have money. You have $2.2 million set aside for VC Summer. I don't know if that's for these projects or anything else, but it was pointed out earlier, we're not real transparent, so we like to keep the public in the dark, and I had to pull these figures out. We even have $10,000 in holding funding for the hospital. The hospital's been closed for years. What are we doing? Are we not looking at this money? Or are we just squirreling away? Be rational, be compassionate, particularly with the taxpayers' money. We've got money. Quit telling us you don't.
No one else signed up to speak, Mr. Chair.
Item 7, public hearings none. Item 8, ordinance resolution in order. Number A, third and final reading, ordinance number 795, an ordinance to consider the request to amend the Fairfield County Land Management Ordinance number 599 and the related zoning map to provide for the zoning reclassification from RD1 Rural Residential District to I1 Industrial District for 392.49 acres of undeveloped property indicated as tax map number 165-00-01-016-000, owned by Gum Springs LLC. Can we get a motion to
Motion
adopt?
to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? Mr. Mr. Whitaker.
I wanted to read a staff comment, but we will continue to discuss that in clarification.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to speak loud. And I wanna read this. For your consideration, our community development and economic development staff have continued to critically think about our emerging planning and zoning needs. As staff, we understand and appreciate the community's concern about this potential rezoning. We also understand the need for balance in the Fairfield County approach and desire for smart and sustainable growth, and the desire to maintain the beauty and unique character the county has for its residents' enjoyment. To that regard, in working with landowners and entities that may purchase land zoned industrially, we want the council and the community to consider the following. From a zoning perspective, Fairfield County has a buffer yard requirement for all developments, and that buffer yard can be quite dense depending on the industry. The strictest buffer yard is 100 feet, but again, it depends on the industry. Note that these buffers can even include walls. Further, a buffer yard requirements are not enacted until there is an actual project. And that is when the county, working with the landowner, would determine the applicable buffer yard. We currently have an ordinance on minimum buffer yards, and that we can always require stricter buffers as conditions for approving a project, a potential project. From an economic development consideration, should Fairfield County be involved in the project, and as Mr. Willoughby said, there's currently no project being considered presently, in the Gum Springs property, we will require that the prospective industry meet landscaping and buffer requirements. Depending on the prospective industries, these recommended requirements may be increased to be more stringent. But staff suggests that no matter the industry, at a minimum, we require the following: no less than 100 feet of buffer along US Highway 34, no less than 25 feet buffer along Gum Springs and Devil's Racetrack, vegetation to include both canopy trees and shrubs, and then maintenance in compliance with buffer requirements that will be enforced by Fairfield County. Mr. Willoughby, in answering some question and answer questions, provided some insight. How would the county require this of a company? Just as the incentives we've offered in the past were tied to investment amounts and the number of jobs created, the county can also use these incentives for landscape requirements to anything else that we can fit. Should they fail to meet these requirements, the county can claw back the incentives provided. But isn't this land privately owned? Yes. The land is privately owned, but the county is still able to provide economic development incentives to projects located on private land. How do these proposed requirements differ from what the county already requires? Currently, buffer and landscaping requirements for industrial districts along main roads range from 20 to 100 feet. At a minimum, we'd be required that a company comply with the maximum length to currently in our land management ordinance. So we just wanted to say that for your consideration, that these are some ways that the county can support buffering as a means of making sure that this potential industrial use does not disturb the county, disturb the residents.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker, and thank you for and for you and your staff for looking at how we can try to accommodate the needs of the community, also the needs of any projects that may come to us. Mr. Paul, you had something.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone that spoke tonight. Your words definitely show you love Fairfield County and your community. Those words were definitely from the heart, and I thank you. I'm going to read what I read the last time. We need to make sure that residential communities are not destroyed by commercial properties. I'm going to repeat that. We need to make sure that residential communities are not destroyed by commercial properties. The citizens that are living in this area are living there for peace and it not being commercial. At the present time, there is no one that is currently interested in the property. The Planning Commission voted unanimous not to rezone the property, and this council should do the same.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbert.
I have one question. Has there been a road study to see whether or not the roads will be able to handle all the large trucking?
That would come once a project is there. There would be a traffic study required, and depending on the amount of traffic that project would use, that would DOT would get requirements for updates made to the road.
But my understanding is that this should be done before the rezoning of that, changing an area from a residential to industrial area. There should be a road study done first.
I'm not sure on the rezoning part about road studies.
Okay, if you check the law, I think that it should be a road study before there's a rezoning. And for that reason, my vote's going to be no on this project. I'll go on record for saying that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Whitaker, I appreciate the comments that you made a few minutes ago. But we had a public hearing on this, and I think if we could have had those comments maybe before to explain to the residents the buffer process and gave them an opportunity to ask questions. So, me personally, I don't see the need, with nobody interested in the property tonight, that this can't be tabled and have another hearing with the information that you provided tonight to the residents, where they can come and ask questions about the buffers and different things that would be required for the property.
You looking for an answer from Mr. Whitaker, or you want me to?
Or the chairman, if we could table it and have some kind of meeting based on the information that he provided, that the citizens can ask questions about the buffers and what rights they would have according to their property.
Okay. Okay, I really, as you think about this, to be frank with you, I don't mind tabling it if we can get the council to go ahead and do so. But let me tell you something, and we can do this, but what I don't understand today is this. On July 8th, 2019, and here we come again, right? But on July 8th, 2019, this council, with the exception of Mr. Trapp and Moses Bell, voted 5-2 to rezone 11.2 acres on Airport Road in Airport Community to put an incinerator. No road study done. You voted to do so, but you did so when you knew there was going to be an incinerator that would cause health issues to the public. But now all of a sudden, when everyone we got have told us, all the economic development folks told us that this county needs this land rezoned. Every member of council knows that. All of us have everyone who's sitting up here on this stage tonight know that this property need to be rezoned. We're trying to make a political statement. Okay, what we have done is we've had Mr. Whitaker to look at him with the economic development folks, look at a way whereby we can accommodate the citizens and a project if it come to us. We went and we ran all them laps this week. Ms. Green and I went out there and looked at the property. We've gone through it and looked at it and see how best to do it. And you all know this. You all know that it is in the best interest of this county for economic development to have a parcel of land that is 400 acres, 392 acres to be exact, that has rail accessibility, water, sewage, and utilities and high-speed broadband. We have always voted together for these kinds of things. But if we want to go ahead and table it, I can go with it.
Ms. Green.
I just have a point of order. Essentially, there's a motion on the floor.
Right, and we're in discussion. So he can go ahead.
Mr. Bell, you stated that the county voted in favor of 5-2 of putting the incinerator up there?
Voted for rezoning. I got the minutes in case you want to see them.
Voted for the rezoning?
Yes.
But the incinerator is not there, correct?
It is not there because...
Once the citizens protested the incinerator, the vote was changed, correct?
The vote was changed after we went down there and looked, and I don't think you attended.
Right, but the vote was changed?
Yeah.
The incinerator is not on the property?
No.
Okay.
But let me tell you, you voted to rezone it to put the incinerator there.
But is the incinerator there now?
But did you vote?
At the end vote, was it a unanimous vote not to put the incinerator there? 7-0.
Okay, any other discussion? There's a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? All in favor? Go ahead. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposers, nay?
To table it, right?
No, and that motion down on the floor.
Okay, well, my vote's a nay.
Okay. So there is, do y'all want to do a hand vote? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposers, nay? Let the record show 4-2 in favor of rezoning. Nine, boards and commission minutes, none. Item 10, board and commission appointments, disability and special needs, District 6, Alwana Goodwin. Can we get a motion?
I make a motion to approve Ms. Goodman.
Second.
It's been moved and second.
Mr. Chair, just to be advised, I did talk with Mr. Roseboro because I do already have a representative for District 6. So Ms. Goodwin will be the representative for actually Mr. Roseboro.
Do what now? I didn't hear you.
I already have a representative for District 6 technically, but I spoke with Mr. Roseboro.
Okay.
And
Okay, so all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposers, nay?
We got any discussion on that?
We asked for discussion, that's why.
Okay, well, I was trying to talk, but you went on.
Okay.
I think before when Mr. Gilbert tried to do that same thing, use somebody from my area to represent his district, he said that it couldn't be done.
Now, I don't think that what was said. I think did you withdraw it? Okay, now we've gone through the motion. Again, so who all voted nay?
Nay against it?
Yeah. Oh, all in favor, aye? Let's go back through again.
Aye.
Okay, opposers, nay?
Nay.
So, okay, 4-2 in favor of the appointment. Old business, new business, none. Item 13, county administrator report.
I'm gonna try this again with the microphone. Can you hear me? I want to start off by talking about the Rural Stabilization Fund. Due to the recent census and shifting of populations into the state and throughout the state, the General Assembly put $12 million into a Rural County Stabilization Fund. Under this proviso, any county that has a population growth as determined by the 2020 census of less than 5.35% since the 2010 census shall be eligible to receive monies from the funds as follows. A baseline, so I think that's about 35 counties that have experienced negative population growth. So the population growth in this state is around maybe 8 areas, but Fairfield County is one of the county that we're well aware of our population, that we lost 12%. So each county, a baseline of $300,000 for each eligible county, an additional $100,000 for counties with a population between 50 and 99,000. Of course, we don't fall into that. And then an additional $200,000 to eligible counties with a population of more than 100,000. So under this Rural Stabilization Fund, I believe Fairfield County, as the latest figures are telling us, will get around $351,000 from the state to help us work on our issues around population. And so presently, the county administration is thinking strategically and planning about how to leverage those funds for capacity building. So we'll be coming back to you with a plan of what we can do to leverage that recurring money. And we just want to thank the General Assembly for putting that money aside for Fairfield County. We'll be probably presenting something to you in the next month or so. Any questions about the rural stabilization? Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir. We want to next talk about our earmark funding. And I want to read some comments before we, Senator Fanning here and Moses here. Do we have a?
Mr. Pope over there.
Mr. Jason Pope is here. Before we bring up Senator Fanning and call Chairman Bear to share some really good news about our earmark request pertaining to our fire service, we want to ask our Fairfield County Fire Service Director, Mr. Jason Pope, to briefly update us on the deadly I-77 crash that caused the traffic delays and the chemical spill. And while Mr. Pope is coming to the podium, on behalf of Fairfield County, I want to thank Mr. Leonardo Brown, the County Administrator for Richland County, and a team led by Columbia Richland Fire Chief Aubrey Jenkins for their leadership and support they offer to the county in this crisis. Mr. Pope, briefly update us.
Thank you, sir. Can everybody hear me okay? Thank you, Mr. Whitaker, Chairman Bell, members of council. Be glad to offer a brief on the incident we had Thursday morning on the interstate. I'll give you my plan is to offer you a basic timeline, then talk about just some of the agencies who were represented. So Thursday morning, about 10 minutes to 4, about 3:50 a.m., our county fire units were dispatched to reported tractor-trailer fire on Interstate 77, just south of the 32-mile marker. Our units got on scene to find 2 vehicles involved, and both of which were on fire, a tractor-trailer and a pickup truck. One person, unfortunately, was entrapped in the pickup truck. There were also sheriff's office units who were on scene. They informed us they got there ahead of our fire units. They did what they could to try to rescue the entrapped person. However, they were unsuccessful. One thing we did note as of today, and I confirm with the coroner, that the victim, the man who died, actually was, the result of death was blunt force trauma. So the accident actually killed him, not the fire. So it's a terrible situation, but it's a little bit more of relief for our sheriff's office. Even if they'd have got him out, doesn't look like there was anything they could do. They tried their best. But so our crews began fire suppression. Once they started their activities, they discovered an unknown product that was being transported in the trailer. They did the right thing. They immediately called for Columbia Fire Department for our mutual aid. They're our neighbors to the south. They needed help specifically with identifying the product and also for some mutual aid. Here in our service, we have very few technical capabilities. So technical hazmat, technical rescue, we do not have. We're not staffed or equipped to handle those kinds of incidents. So when we have a hazmat incident like this, something significant on the interstate, we have to call in outside help. It's a normal thing. If it would have been closer to Chester County, we would have called someone in Chester County. So this is kind of standard procedure for us to call them in for technical support. Once both at that time, both southbound lanes of the interstate were shut down, and the sheriff's office began clearing the interstate at that point and closing down access. Once units from the Columbia Fire Department got on scene together, we made the call to cease firefighting operations, to close all lanes of the interstate, northbound, southbound, until we could identify the product. At that point, the sheriff's office had a total of 9 traffic control points they had set up in order to reroute traffic around the interstate. It was a huge lift for them, and I will say that they did a wonderful job with controlling that incident and getting the cars off the interstate, because there was a lot of traffic on the interstate even at that time of the morning. At approximately 7:50, we ordered a shelter in place for a 1-mile radius around the incident location. And then about 30 minutes later, we added the town of Ridgeway to that. And the reason was we had a very low cloud ceiling that morning. The weather was not in our favor. The smoke at this time, we didn't know what it was not going anywhere. Normally, you want to see it go up and dissipate and go out, and that's, it's no harm to anybody. But this smoke was lingering down low. We had to move our instant command post one time just to get out of it. And so with the unknown of the product, we felt it best to do the shelter in place at that time. We continued working to contact the trucking company in order to ID the product. Then at about 9:30 a.m., we did have a positive confirmation of what the product was from the trucking company. All we knew was the trucking company, the driver's name, and where he was headed. But we were able to get it, and the product in the truck was ammonium sulfate. And at that point, we, together with the Columbia Fire Department, we developed an action plan on what our next steps were. By 10:30, we had the fire contained. It wasn't out yet, but it was contained. It was under control, and we lifted the shelter in place, both of them, for the town and for the 1-mile radius. At that, shortly thereafter, we reopened the northbound lanes to get some traffic moving. We continue to work in conjunction with our towing and recovery partners and the coroner's office to remove the vehicle that was on scene that had the fatality. We actually removed that vehicle from the scene, and they did the victim extrication at a separate site, off-site. We continued working with towing and recovery to extinguish the fire, remove the tractor trailer from the roadway. It was a large process, took several hours. Again, our start time was 03:50. Our last unit cleared the scene around 2:30 p.m. And we turned the scene over to Highway Patrol and we left. This was a multi-agency response. County Fire had 11 people on scene that morning. 6 of those were volunteer firefighters, and some of them here tonight. We've got Melissa and Glenn Adams. We've got Dwayne Bell and Ruby Bell and and Caroline. And we've got Jay Joyner. He's one of our full-time employees. And we even got a retired volunteer firefighter here, Butch McGraw. And thank you for being here, Butch. But these and others worked tirelessly to be there until the job was done. And I can't say enough about our volunteer firefighters and the work that they do. We just need more of them. So we need a whole lot more of them than what we have, and we have some of the best. Again, our mutual aid from Columbia Fire Department was invaluable. They provided the technical assistance we needed in addition to the manpower. Again, the multi-agency response from Fairfield County, we had fire on scene, EMS, rescue squad, sheriff's office, and emergency management division. Again, I already mentioned the Columbia Fire Department for mutual aid. Our state partners involved were Highway Patrol, SC Transport Police, DOT, as well as DHEC. We conducted an after-action meeting on Friday afternoon with most of the departments that were able to attend. We discussed what went well, and we also discussed some areas that we can always improve on. This is, as you know, there's always ways to get better and improve, and we noted some of those things. That is a brief that I provided, and if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them.
Any questions of council? Certainly, we want to make sure we thank you and all the other agencies for all the work you do, and especially our volunteers.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no question. Just saying thank you for everything that was done that day for first responders and everything.
Thank you.
And certainly, again, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
All
you.
responders.
Yes. I would like to commend and thank our first responder for their heroic response to this accident last week, and you put your lives on the line for the citizens of Fairfield County. We really do appreciate you guys, and your service should not go unnoticed. We really do thank you for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And we are working diligently to inventory and systematically address these needs. Fire and rescue services are one of the most critical public safety services that any community can provide, and the men and women who heroically perform these services need proper and safe equipment to perform this work. To this regard, we want to invite Chairman Bell and Senator Mike Fanning to share some good news about an equipment request for our fire services department. So, if you could just.
I'm going to go first, Senator
Okay.
Fanning, because I don't want to come after you, sir. but one of the things before I do that though is first I want to acknowledge the fire chief from Southeastern, Dwayne Bell, and then Jamie Webb, who is at the beach. He could not be here today, but also I want all the volunteer fires to stand up. Stand up. And I also want to acknowledge Melissa Adams. Please stand. Just go ahead and keep standing for a minute. The reason I want to acknowledge her is one of the things she do, but it's all of us, and she told me to make sure I didn't say nothing more about her than I did the rest, and that's how firefighters do, right? But again, I do want to thank her because one of the things she schedules a training session with Southeastern and Ridgeway. But in that session, what we do, she also invited Senator Fanning. Okay, and inviting him, I think we got some pictures. Do we? Okay, I want you all to look at these pictures. Okay, and so again, she provides this training for all of us, and Senator Fanning comes to this training at least once a year to be with the firefighters, and we spend some time. Sometimes Jamie cook hot dogs and that kind of thing. So we get chance to do a lot of this stuff together. So when we wrote up the I guess we can call it a grant, but when I wrote up the request to ask for, we needed $1 million, okay, and we asked for $1 million for the air packs. Senator Fanning couldn't provide them $1 million, but what they did do is I didn't have to go back and forward with him to keep asking about it because he knew that there was a need for the air packs, and so he so graciously worked that through through whatever means he had to do that. So I wrote it up, and he might want to acknowledge others who helped in the process. But again, I want to thank him for doing that. But one of the things the citizens need to be aware of, we got the air pack's going to be again around $1 million. He given us $400,000 to go toward that end, and we can buy the air packs on sort of on a time schedule, which we are trying to plan to do. However, by us having that money to buy on air packs, then we can, we're going to come back in a few weeks to talk about ARPA money. Then we can take that money that was currently going to use for air packs to buy a fire tanker. So, I mean, this works. And if everybody working together, Jason and I talked a little bit ago, and we talked about how much of a team effort this is in trying to get all this kind of stuff done. So again, I want to thank everybody for what they do. And again, thanking Melissa for providing that training and getting Senator Fanning to the training. Not you, Senator Fanning.
If I can, Mr. Chairman, can I ask the firefighters to come stand up here since they are as much part of this?
Please
If
do.
all the firefighters will come join me. Jason, you can't go. You got to stay. And could I also ask the best tag team partner in the legislature I could ever have, Representative Annie McDaniel, could you come on up with us, Representative McDaniel, and join us? Because even though it was a Senate proviso, she was the one that made sure it made it through the House, or we wouldn't have it. So I want these folks to join us up here if I can. Mr. Pope, if you'd help Representative McDaniel, you may need an EMS stretcher from out back. Her knees are locking up on her. For too long, people have said we support first responders, and then we don't do it. And I'm not talking about Fairfield, but just we've done that. As a teacher, I hear it all the time. We support public education, but you're looking in South Carolina, we never do. We don't spend the money on education. We don't. This year in South Carolina, we were the only state that didn't give teachers a raise. Biggest teacher shortage ever. And so it offends me when everybody says we support public education, but they don't put their money where their mouth is. Today, we just heard about one of the greatest fire horror stories in years in South Carolina, right here in Fairfield County. And I was getting calls all weekend from folks across the state because they were watching. And they kept saying, Senator Fanning, you don't know how big this is. You don't know how big a problem this is. And I'm saying after the 20th phone call, I sure do now. But our firefighters did something that fire departments across the state haven't had to tackle before. And so it's one thing to say thank you, but the other is to do something about it. And so I want to thank each and every one of the members of this council. I also want to thank Chairman Bell, because in the Senate, when we do earmarks, every county gets a turn. And so this year was Fairfield County's turn to get money in the state budget. And I called Chairman Bell and I said, what should be my priority in the Senate? And he said, first responders, our firefighters. And he sent me to Jason Pope, who used the word air packs more times in 1 minute than has ever been used in the history of the world. And he sent me to Melissa and the Ridgeway Fire Department and put me through that training you just saw, because they wanted not just to tell me about the 253 air packs. You can tell that I have it down because I was fighting in the Senate all session. 253 air packs that have a 15-year life expectancy, of which we are almost at the end of that. They made me wear one. What's that?
You're already at the end.
We're at the end.
We already past due.
And so they strapped one of these, Mr. Pauly, they strapped one of these air packs on me, which weighed 10,000 pounds. And it's 15 years old, and Councilman Robinson, there wasn't much air left in that air pack. Then they freaking they freaking blindfolded me, ran me through an obstacle course, Mr. Trapp, and had me wearing this air pack. And then at the end of that, when I was exhausted, as you saw, they said, Senator Fanning, you know why we need the air packs. And so again, it's one thing to say we support our first responders. It's another thing to say what our needs are. But I appreciate Chairman Bell putting me to Jason and Melissa and Glenn and the entire group, folks assembled here, to show me why air packs are so essential, and the fact that 253 are past life expectancy. But I also want to connect to what we said earlier. Y'all did a great job in hiring Malik Whitaker, who, if you remember, just described almost $400,000 in rural monies, correct, coming to Fairfield County. That's $400,000 non-Fairfield tax dollars coming to Fairfield County. This that we're talking about now is another $400,000 non-Fairfield tax money coming into Fairfield County to meet a need. And so because of that request, because of what Jason, who told me air packs every day for years, but also because of the sheer torture that Melissa put me through in that, we today are proud to announce that we have $400,000 coming to Fairfield County. And I can't leave out my tag team partner, Representative McDaniel, who promised me she'd wear an air pack tonight, but she left it in the car. But please know that I can't take credit, because I can get it through the Senate, but it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't go through the House. And I had to help her with the House earmark, and she helped me with this. And so I want to make sure that I recognize Representative Annie McDaniel. We've got a team in Fairfield County. No matter what happens other times, even no matter what happens earlier tonight, don't let the divisiveness override what's really happening in Fairfield County. And that's a lot of good things are happening. We've got a great administration in place. We've got an outstanding top in the state fire department that's doing amazing things. And because we're working together, I'm excited to announce that we now have $400,000. Malik, I've been told you'll get the check in September, which means hopefully in September we'll be looking for it, Jason, is to go here. If you see Malik wearing an air pack down the street and you haven't got your money yet, please get that. But we've got $400,000 in state monies coming back to Fairfield County for probably one of the biggest needs we could ever ask for, and that is air packs for our first responders. And so I close by saying, just as it bothers us to hear we support first responders without action, I'm happy to see that in Fairfield County, we not only say we support our first responders, but we do today. So would you mind giving these firefighters and those that they represent a big hand? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Whitaker.
Let them take their seats. Next, we want an action item on our spec building contract. Ms. Williams.
Thank you. All right, so members of council, recently we put out a request for qualifications for a construction management at risk contract to construct the 100,000 square foot speculative building, which will be located on parcel 9 of the Fairfield Commerce Center. A selection panel reviewed the 6 submittals and rated them based off qualifications. THS contractors received the highest score and was recommended by the selection committee. We're asking for council to approve us moving forward with signing the contract with THS contractors to complete the construction of the speculative building on parcel 9.
And that is an action item.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Let the record show 6-0 approval.
And next, we'll have an update on our wastewater.
All right, I'll also give that update. So we've made a great deal of progress on the wastewater treatment plant project. We wanted to give you all a quick summary of where we were and where we're going. So you all are aware, we've talked about it several times about the settlement with Dominion that put aside approximately $45 million for the wastewater treatment plant. And as you know, last year the county and the town of Winsboro worked together to create the Fairfield joint water and sewer system, which we call as the joint system, an independent political subdivision, which will be managing the wastewater treatment plant in the long term. So also recently, Winsboro, the county, and the joint system are currently in negotiations for a master project participation agreement that will cover construction and operation of the wastewater treatment facility. In the meantime, the parties identified an opportunity to maximize the funding available for the project and to make progress on a few critical pieces of this puzzle. So namely, we believe there may be grant money available to fund approximately $20 million towards the project. Accordingly, the parties have been working together to seek grant funding for the line that will ultimately connect the Ridgeway wastewater treatment plant and the Commerce Park area to the joint system's future infrastructure. To that end, we, the county, have signed a contract with American Engineering Consultants Incorporated to provide preliminary design of the Ridgeway collector line and related infrastructure. American Engineering will also be preparing the South Carolina Infrastructure Investment Program, or SCIP, application for grant funds to construct this portion of the joint system. The SCIP grant is funded through the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds, and we believe the joint system project is a strong candidate. American Engineering will be preparing the application on behalf of both Fairfield County and the town of Ridgeway. At this time, we've only engaged American Engineering for preliminary engineering work and the SCIP grant application. The preliminary engineering is a requisite step to construct the joint system regardless of the course of action we decide to take when the preliminary engineering work is complete. After the engineering work is complete, we plan to pursue the project on the following terms, which will be negotiated in a separate agreement, and we will present to County Council before signing. The grant funds will require a 15% match from the local government, which is us. The design of the construction line, which will be paid for from the settlement funds, if applicable, will count towards that 15% match. And we have also notified Dominion that we intend to use the settlement funds for the purpose for the design of this line. Once constructed, the joint system will own the line, not the town of Winsboro. However, because the joint system currently lacks staff or equipment to operate the line, the joint system will lease the line to the town of Winsboro for a nominal sum until the new wastewater treatment plant is constructed. The lease payment will only be a nominal amount, but Winsboro will have to maintain and operate the line at its own expense during the lease period. During the lease period, the line will carry wastewater to Winsboro's existing plant. Winsboro will fund the maintenance and operation of the line out of Winsboro's revenue from treating wastewater carried by the line. But when the joint system's new plant is ready, Winsboro's lease will end. They will reverse the flow in the line to send the effluent to the joint system's new plant for treatment, which is necessary to get the new plant up and running. At that point, the joint system will have to pay the cost of maintaining the line. We will not begin construction or commit to a construction contract until the terms referenced above are memorialized in writing. Before any such contract is signed, we will present it to the council for full discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Williams, Mr. Whitaker. This is certainly a big deal. This is a big, good deal of where we are in the process. And I want to thank staff for all this work they're doing. And if we have any questions, please do so, because as she just talked about, the drawing, the design for the line has already been, the documents have already been signed for us to do this work. Again, thank you.
At our last meeting, I was told that it was in our bylaws that we could not ask the administrators question if it wasn't on the agenda. I read the bylaws and I didn't see it anywhere in that. Everyone knows that I'm an advocate for the employees of Fairfield County. Mr. Whitaker, a department head position was filled by an employee that was still on probationary status. My understanding is that he had not been evaluated and that a former deputy and another qualified employee had been overlooked for this position. It is also my understanding that one of these employees has resigned. In policy EP6, it states that it is our policy to provide a planned program for all new employees. This program will be provided an in-process necessary to bring a new employee on board, as well as helping a new employee feel at home, a part of a team, and to provide information concerning what organization is expected of him. All new employees will be given a probationary period for 1 year or less. The period allows supervisors time to evaluate each employee's adjusted to an ability to perform a job. The probationary period is not guaranteed of an employment for 1 year. And my understanding is that this employee had not been evaluated. All right. Then there's a personnel action policy, also 2-B. It is also the desires of the county to utilize each employee to their fullest potential and to encourage and foster personal development and advancement. To this end, selecting officials should fully consider all qualified employees, regardless of department or assignment, who applies for a job vacancy. Personnel action 3-B. If feasible, certain job vacancy will be filled within. This will be a position effective on morale, demonstrate a desire, recognize employees' loyalty, and encouraging personnel and development of all employees. Question. You must ask yourself, if you are making a sound decision for improvement of an department and county, 1, is promoting a probationary employee to the top position sound if he hasn't been graded to effectively in the technical position yet? Is it this employee most technical employee in the is this employee the most technical employee in the candidate pool? Will promotion of this candidate have a positive effect on morale, demonstrate a desire to recognize employer loyalty, and encourage personnel development of the employee? If the answer is no, then you will be hurting the following elements in your workforce: morale. New employees move over a long-term employee. Seniority time with the county does not matter. Work ethics. Why have a good work ethic if it's going to be overlooked?
Thank you, Mr. Gibbard. Anybody else?
Chairman Bell.
Yes.
Chairman Bell and members of council, I speak tonight on several issues concerning Fairfield County and the taxpayers. Back on June the 3rd, 2022, the council received an email from the administrator addressing issues at the animal shelter. In this email, he states the county strives not to euthanize animals due to space constraints. The current state of overcrowding necessitates this decision. At a meeting after this email, I made a motion to help animal control and provide some kind of funding for help with air conditioners from an account that was found with $187,000 in it, and we did nothing. We did use $11,000 for the repaving of a basketball court and other recreational items, but nothing for animal control. 4 options were given on how to help with this problem. At the last council meeting, Mr. Ennis, our director, gave an awesome presentation on conditions at the animal shelter and what we needed to do to address. And still on the agenda tonight, there is nothing scheduled to discuss animal control in Fairfield County. Pictures posted this morning shows animals standing in mud and other harsh conditions. I think we actually cut their budget by 10%. I want to say thank you to Mr. Fanning for the $400,000 for the air packs and what you did for the fire services in Fairfield County. But I still need to address first responders. We didn't fund anything for first responders in the budget. Sheriff Montgomery sent every council member a letter describing the rate at which he is losing good employees. In the exit interviews, they state they love working here, but need to make more money. In the past month, Highway Patrol, DNR, Chester County, and others have raised salaries and committed to sign-on bonuses. Nothing is on the agenda and has been scheduled to address this issue. I'm speaking for all first responders. Jason Pope has been told for 3 years there is no money for fire marshal, but we create a position for a custodian at $52,000 for a new administration building. They also created a position for deputy director at the detention center for $90,000. If they would have spoke with Mr. Calder, who is the director of HR, he could have told them that the position was done away with years ago, and the reason. They opened recycling centers up for $75,000. In closing, I think this council needs to address these issues very, very soon. We cannot continue to move forward without addressing the issues that are brought before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pauly. Any other members of council?
Yes, I'd just like to address some of the things that were talked about in terms of the Gum Springs Road and the decisions moving forward. When we take a look at economic development, as you know, the chair of the Economic Development Committee, we are certainly looking at the proximity of a site to I-77, which is very, very important in terms of the attributes that many corporations are looking for. Knowing that there is existing infrastructure there is also important in terms of water, sewer, electricity, the utilities, and all of that. And there's also a sense of an ease of development. By that I mean that the site is sufficient for quick development. The size is the kind that a lot of industries in the $100 million to $2 billion investment pool is looking for. So I know that it was a difficult decision. I know that many of the people who spoke tonight have left, but I think that when we take a look at investments in Fairfield County and what we need to do, that this is a decision that will benefit us in the future. I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of council? Again, I want to thank the first responders for being here tonight and for all the work you all do every day, day in and day out. So thank you. And again, if nothing else, there's no executive session, none. So can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Let the record show 6-0 adjourned. It is now 7:19.